Anyway, thanks for joining SCORE Maine today. Welcome to our webinar on SEO for the entrepreneur, small business SEO. I'm Jasper. I work in the SCORE Maine office in Portland. We're a resource partner of the SBA and helping clients at all stages of the business cycle from pre-start to exit. And thanks, Corey, for putting on this great presentation. Corey's a search SEO expert and will be giving us some great guidance today. Looking forward to everyone's questions and feel free to engage in the chat or the Q&A. If you want to get a little more in depth too, we can also invite you to speak. Feel free to go on voice or just microphone. Use the raise your hand function for that, and we'll have you on. Uh, anyway, Corey, why don't you take it away?
Sure. Thanks, Jasper. Thanks, everyone, for attending today. My name is Corey Daigle. I own a company called WanderWeb. We are a search engine optimization agency based in Maine. And I started my business 7 years ago with SCORE. I had a mentor through SCORE and also through the Small Business Development Center, and used those resources for the first few years of my business. So I absolutely love to give back. Prior to starting my business, I worked in healthcare as a nurse and became over the years more of an administrator working in optimization and outcome improvement, process improvement and systems. And didn't realize it, but I was running little micro businesses within the healthcare organization. So I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time. I just didn't know that I was. Okay, it's wonderful to meet all of you, and I can't wait to chat later on. Please, throughout the session, ask lots of questions. You can drop them in the chat, and if it's something that I can help you with, like a specific solution, we can bring you on and do a live chat if you like. I would love to be able to support your specific situations. Throughout today, we're going to be talking about a few things regarding search engine optimization, which is what SEO stands for. So in really simple terms, what search engine optimization is making it easy for Google to find the information that you want to share with your customers, the right customers. When I first started my business as a web designer, I didn't really understand the intricacies of SEO. It builds upon itself and it's very complex. But what it really comes down to is understanding your customers. And we're going to talk a lot about that. It's simple, but it's not easy. Today, we'll be talking about two types of search engine optimization. The first type there's multiple types. The first type we're going to be talking about is on-page search engine optimization, those tasks that you can do on your website to help Google find it. And the other one we're going to be talking about, the other type of search engine optimization, is local or location search optimization. They're very different strategies. They're both checklist based, but require a lot of intuitive knowledge about your customer and critical thinking, which as business owners, we have in spades. The reason I specifically am referring to Google a lot with search engine optimization is because it is the predominant way that people search for things. And so for now, we focus primarily on Google, not on Bing or Yelp, although we do use those resources, but they're not our primary focus. So what we're going to talk about today, the way the format will go is we'll have a discussion about the things that you need to do to optimize your website itself, the things you need to actually do to your website, regardless of whether it's on Wix or WordPress, Squarespace, it doesn't matter. All the tasks are very similar for your on-page optimization. We'll get into local optimization and then have an opportunity for questions. And we'll let you know how you can connect with me moving forward, which if you were to have any questions specific to your business, or how to connect with SCORE, which obviously you already know how to connect with SCORE, but we'll give you that contact information as well. So SEO or search engine optimization, I'm just going to call it SEO today, or search optimization. It's really important because it makes your website visible, and therefore more people find you, and it gives you an opportunity to have more traffic and therefore more opportunity to convert prospects or potential clients into customers. Search engine optimization is a customer acquisition tool. What you already have is a business that hopefully when people get to you, they buy from you, they buy your product or service and become lifelong customers because your retention is great. This is how you get new customers with search optimization. And I always like to start with some proof and data. So why is search engine optimization important beyond that? Why do we want to invest in it? Is the reason is less than 1% of people go beyond the first page of Google. Most searches, especially if there is a near me component, are trying to find a local business, and 97% of people that are searching are looking for local business, and 28% of those online searches result in a sale. So that means that essentially 1 in 4 people that are doing a search are looking for a local business to buy from, okay, when they're searching for local options. So these are very high value searches. We want to capture them. How does search engine optimization work? So I like to simplify things to their very elementary understanding, simply because if you really have an understanding of something, you can take that logic and apply it in a spectrum and continue to use it moving forward. So the way search engine optimization works is Google has spiders. They're called bots or spiders that crawl every word that exists on the internet. They go from site to site, post to post, page to page, social media channel to social media channel, and collect information all over the world from every bit of information that's on the internet and put it into a giant library. Once it's in the library, they have probably around 200 to 250 different considerations or factors that they will decide how valuable, important, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, piece of content is based upon a user search. So what happens is Google has taken all of these words, they're a big librarian, and they've learned all of the things in the library. And then, so when someone comes to Google and types in a search, they're a person going to the library to ask for a recommendation. And Google will give up its results based upon what the searcher has asked for, or the customer. Google's job, it's a business, and Google wants to keep people coming back to Google. Just like Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook and Instagram wants you to stay on Instagram. These are all businesses that are looking to create return customers, improve a customer experience, and have revenue from those customers. So the only goal Google has is to give the best answer to the question or the query that's being typed into the top of Google. That's their whole goal. So that's how they rank. They use these 200 plus factors and decide based upon the answer. So say I typed in soap, right? I'm probably going to get like Dove, some of the other brands, Ivory, whatever, right? But if I were to type in artisanal goat milk soap from Maine, Google's going to give a very different answer, right? So based upon what I've typed in, Google will know intuitively that I'm looking for something that's handmade, that has a little bit more of an organic feel. They're not only going to do that, but they're going to tag me with a cookie and know that I'm that type of person moving forward, okay? So Google uses all of these factors to estimate how well the content that you've created will match with a search. And that's why we go back to understanding your customer is so important. So today we're going to talk about how to do that. We're going to learn how to SEO like a pro. Remember, we talked about 2 different types of search optimization. Just a reminder, please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. So we talked about 2 different types of search optimization. There's multiple types, but the 2 we're going to talk about today that are most impactful for a small business are on-page, which is your website itself, and location. So let's start with on-page search engine optimization. All that is optimizing your website to make it easy for Google to understand what you're about and appeal to your customer. So it's easy, like I said, like appeal to your customer. So you have to know your customer, and you also have to kind of understand the way Google thinks. So although it sounds easy, it's not simple, right? So it's easy, but it's not simple. And you'll hear me say this over and over and over again throughout the seminar today is know your customer. The business that knows their customer the best is the business that will win in the end, because you're going to create product, services, language, answer questions that your customer is looking for. Okay. So if you are selling dog collars, you're not going to talk about cats, right? If you're selling dog collars to breeders that have breakaway clips and different colors that can easily identify a puppy, that's a whole different customer than just someone that you're selling dog collars to, right? So understanding your customer is super, super important. Putting that language on your website in a way that Google can read it and your customer is like, yep, that's what I'm looking for. Those are the things we're going to talk about today. So the basis of search optimization, and this hasn't changed, and I don't see it changing even with the changes that are coming with artificial intelligence or AI, is you've got to know your customer and then know the words that they're going to be using. Okay, so words are very important for search engine optimization. The reason is because that's what Google reads, right? Google is beginning to understand video and image content, but they're not able to apply the context. So words are still important. So using words and phrases your customer would search for in your content is really important. So if you know someone's going to be looking for bright colored puppy collars for a litter, right? Those are words that you would want to use on your website, right? So you want to give Google a really clear understanding of what you're about and also talk to your customer at the same time. This allows Google to match the correct solution that you provide to the right customer. And then when the customers get there, the customer realizes, okay, I am in the right place. So they're getting the answers or the information or the services or products that they're looking for. Any questions so far? So these are some of the ways that you can make it really clear to Google and your customers. We're going to go through a checklist. Okay. And today, at the end of today, you will get a checklist of things that you need to do. So these are some of the things that you can do as a small business owner that's managing your own website to ask for if someone else is managing your website, because not all web designers are search optimization specialists. Okay. So there's a very different skill set there. So the first thing is looking at the hero section of your website. And that hero section, what I mean by that, it's the first things visitors see when they land on your website. So if you think about newspapers, for those of you that still read the newspaper or have read the newspaper, that above the fold, is so important, that above the fold section, because that's the part that everybody sees. So what I'm talking about with the hero section is that part of your landing page that people see when they first get to your website without scrolling. Okay, so that first top part of your landing page, or the web page that most people land on your website, it usually is the home page, but it could be a different page on your website that really says what you do, who you do it for, and why you do it. Make it really clear. So it's often located usually below the menu. Most people have the menu across the top of their website, and you see it without scrolling down. You see the entire piece of content. So this section of your website is probably the most important part of your website, and it can make or break your success. The most commonly used pages of your website should all have a strong hero message. And we'll talk a little bit about analytics and what to look at later on today in the seminar. But those pages that most people go to, and it's often, for most businesses, it starts the homepage or the landing page. Often the about page is an opportunity, and the contact page. If you have a really popular service, that can be something that you really focus on. But I like to design every page of a website as an individual page, as though it's its own website itself as a conversion flow. So every page on a website that we design here at WanderWeb, we design them so that it doesn't matter what page a customer lands on, it is a conversion focused web page with a hero section and some of the other things. So when you view your website on mobile, Laura is asking. So hi, Laura, by the way, Laura is a friend of mine. So when you view your website on mobile, she's asking, should you make sure the words are above any photos? Essentially, yes. So photos, especially on mobile, when you're looking at a website on a screen, it's like landscape like this. But most people don't flip their phone. Most people look at their phone like this. So you'll want to make sure that the content, if you've got photos, the content, the written content should overlay the photos and actually be words and not an image with photos, a photo with words in it, right? They actually need to be the words because Google won't read a photo that has words in it, but Google will read the words that are typed into your website. You should ideally have what you do, who you do it for, the result they get. Like, I am Corey. I design websites that are optimized for search so that you get found on Google and get more customers. And then below that, the call to action or the thing that you want people to do. That should be the first thing that someone sees on your website. Be really clear about what you want them to do. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So your hero section. Going back just a little bit to that, I see a lot of hero sections where people are witty. Witty is great for brands that are really well known. Nike can say, just do it. There's nobody in this webinar that doesn't know what Nike does, right? For us, for small business owners and entrepreneurs, we really need to be very clear. Donald Miller wrote a book called Story Brand. And if you haven't read that book, I think it's actually free on Kindle Unlimited. And it is probably one of the best books for a newer business person to read. And what he talks about is, he calls it the grunt test. And basically, he says, if you can't look at a website and within 3 seconds realize what it's for, then people are going to click away. And I say, this is what I say, is that you get 2 clicks. You get 1 click. It's either going to be the red X in the upper corner of your website, or it's going to be your call to action or your scroll, right? Those are the 2 options. They're either going to leave or they're going to do something. That something might be clicking to make an appointment. It might be checking further into your website, but you really want to invite them and be really clear about what to do. Businesses miss this, and this is probably the most basic, easy thing you can do. Okay. The next thing is headlines. So for those of you that are doing your own website, each section has an opportunity to create something called headlines. And if you're in Wix or WordPress, whatever site or whatever platform that you're designing your website in, you can tag that content as H1, H2, or H3. And H1, 2, and 3, Google will read them if you mark them as H1, 2, or 3 on the back end of your website. And if you don't know how to do that, just Google it. Okay. How do I make headlines on Wix, right? And it's not hard to do, but really what you want to do is take your headlines and consider a couple things. The first is they have to have a searchable keyword in them, my recommendation. All right. So if you're selling artisanal soap or dog collars, you want to make sure that something about dog collars or artisanal soap is in there. It doesn't have to be those exact words, because Google has algorithmic thinking and knows that dog collars and leashes go together, right? So you don't need to have maybe dog collar in every section, but you might have like dog leashes or dog harness, right? They all go together. So Google will understand that. But the thing that also a lot of people forget is first making sure to tag the headlines, which you might not even know. But the other thing is your headline's got to rock. It has to be something that makes people want to read more. Your hero section has to be something that makes people want to scroll. Okay. So the only job of your hero section is to get people engaged in your website. And the only job of a headline is to get people to read on. That's it. So if you're really overthinking it and you're creating all of this great body content, but your headlines aren't good, think about a headline as you would a newspaper headline, right? You need to have something that people will look at and realize that they are interested in moving forward and they're in the right place. Okay. Okay, so we talked about designing your hero section. That's a to-do. That'll take you, once you have your messaging can take years, right? I'm still working on mine. I'm in year 8 and continuing to tweak it, because every time you get good at something, you have to, your business changes a little bit, right? And you have to continue to tweak and check. So we talked about headlines and we talked about our hero section. The next thing is we're going to talk about is our meta descriptions. And again, just like you can add headlines, you can also add meta descriptions. And meta descriptions are just the descriptor of what each page of your website is about. And if you look at the slide, you can see in the upper left-hand corner where it says how to create the right meta description, and underneath it, it says the meta description summarizes a page content, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's a meta description right there, is that description of what the page is about. So they've named the page how to create the right meta description. In this case, this page is probably a blog. And then the meta description talks about what the blog is about. Okay, same for a web page. So if you went to WanderWebs, we'd say we do websites and SEO for small businesses, right? Just you're in the right place. So the typical rules for a meta description are, it should be a couple sentences, not too long. Ideally include your target keyword. There's some debate on whether that means anything, but it never hurts to make sure that you're clear on what you're offering. And this is a sales opportunity here. You're not selling, you're making sure you're being clear, but target an emotion. Make sure that your meta description is enticing, because that's what's going to make someone want to click into your web page. And you'll need to have a different meta description for every page on your website. If you don't do that, Google's going to assign you one, and you may not like what they assign you. So around 150 characters, meaningful, descriptive, and matching what you do. Okay, so these are your on-page things. So that's 1, 2, 3 things that you should be doing on your web page. You're going to go to number 4 now. By the way, I'm French Canadian, so the hands are always going to be moving. Sorry about that. All right. The next is naming your images and video for what they are. So Google and search engines in general do not yet know or have a very refined ability to read images and decide what they are, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. I love this picture. This is Michael Toole. He is a financial advisor from Bangor, Maine. Now, I am putting this picture on a website, but I'm going to give it a very different tag, alt tag, or name for the picture, depending on what my goal is for the website. All right, this is where understanding your customer comes in, because it would not be wrong to say man in suit, right? It wouldn't be wrong to say that. That is an accurate tag for this image. However, in this image, in this circumstance, we were creating a website for a financial firm. And so this image was tagged Michael Toole, owner, the name of his business, and the type of business that he did, right? Okay. So what if this were a catalog for selling suits, right? We're creating a website to sell suits. I would call this image gray suit, blue shirt, striped tie, right? What if we were selling glasses? I would describe it very differently, right? What if this was just a generic picture, right? These are all very different, which would have been the man in suit standing outside, right? So you don't need to go too in depth with it, but the way image optimization works for Google search is if someone is searching in Google Images and they were to search man in suit, I would want this to come, like I'm looking to buy a suit. Google knows because I've already searched and they've looked around for suits and they've tagged me. So they understand that I'm looking to buy a suit, right? and I look on Google Images to look for man in suit, right? Um, I'll answer that question in a second, Laura. I want this one to come up, right? Or if I want, if someone's looking for the name of Michael's business, I want his image to come up. So I would name the business in the tag. So Laura's asking a question, how important is naming such and each image for what it actually is, such as maninsuit.jpg? On the back end of your website, when you upload your, are you asking Laura about when you upload the image to your site, the name of the, okay. So yes, you'll have an opportunity to name the image, which can be what you uploaded it as, man in suit. And then you'll have an opportunity to add an alt tag, right? The alt tag works in two different ways. The alt tag is Google reads that, but it also will read the name of the image. But the other thing that the alt tags are good for, and the reason you don't want to do any keyword stuffing, is accessibility. And so those people who are visually impaired have screen readers, and it will say like man in suit, whatever you've named the image, image of man in suit.
We've also got Linda Small raising their hand. Why don't we have them join here? Hi, Linda. You're on. Why don't you unmute your mic so you can ask your question?
Hi, Linda.
Your microphone is muted, Linda, if you're still looking to ask a question here. Maybe, maybe not. Well, we'll come back to Linda, I suppose. Um, yeah, Linda, if you're there, we'll come back to you. We've also got Danielle
Okay.
raising their hand. Danielle, you're on. Make sure to unmute your mic if you're looking to ask a question.
Hey, thanks. I'm just joining. Apologies for jumping on a little late.
All good.
With this photo tagging in things that might be a little more abstruse. For instance, one of the things I do and one of my websites concerns singing and teaching voice. So,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's looking for a voice teacher or a voice coach,
Yep.
you know, how might I want to deal with that photographically?
Okay, cool. So again, thinking about your customer. So what are some of the images that you could get on your website that would appeal to your customer? So knowing very little about your business, right? You're teaching boys to sing. I would make sure that there was an image of you instructing male children singing, or a male child, whatever it is that you're appealing to. If you do single classes, double classes, whatever, and name that image appropriately, like your name, voice teacher with student. Like that would be a good name. That would be a good way to name the image for your alt text, but also would work for screen readers and accurate, so that those people with accessibility issues, and we're not talking about accessibility today, that's a whole different ballpark, but I did want to make sure that we're not keyword stuffing, because that would penalize you. And there are some things that can happen negatively to businesses that don't meet some of the accessibility needs. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Sure. A quick follow-up. You mentioned with male student, any particular reason? Most of the students who come to me tend to be female.
It's fine. If you wanted to only teach male students, then I would specifically call it out, because you had mentioned a male student, I thought.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
that's okay. But that's the way you can be really strategic, right, with your images. So maybe like a group class versus an individual class. Maybe they've got a piano with them. Maybe they've got a violin. Maybe they have, like, I don't know, a kazoo, right? Like whatever because quite frankly, if I was coming to you, I would want a kazoo involved, just so you know.
Okay. Well, Melissa clarified something for me in the chat. Probably the word voice, VOICE, might have sounded like boys. And
Yeah.
I don't teach kazoo.
Darn it.
That's why I was saying it's a little more abstruse, because you don't see an instrument. The instrument is your voice.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, but yes, thanks, Jasper, for that. So sorry, I've got a wicked streak of humor that will always come out. Yeah, so just naming your images strategically and making sure that you are strategically curating images. Certainly, if they're stock images, you don't really need to do anything with them. My recommendation would be to put null, NUL or NIL, so Google knows just not to index it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I think that transitions well into a question from Susan in the chat here. Does an alt tag need to be a sentence or description?
It typically you would want more of a description.
All right, we've got a few more. We've got Mark with their hand up. Well, oh, let's see. Oh, and bam. All right, Mark, you are on. Feel free to unmute your mic if you're looking to ask a question still.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, hi,
you're
Mike.
live.
Hi, I have a new business and I started my website about a month ago. Now I listed my service area is going to be about 6 towns around the Sebago Lake area.
Okay.
When I type in my business, sometimes I will pop up on the Google business page. Sometimes I don't even show up. I may show up down the page and one day I may not even show up on it.
Mm-hmm. Are you typing on your own computer?
Yes.
Okay. So, so first of all, your computer has tracked you and knows that to bring that up for you, right? So that's not accurate for what someone who's looking for you fresh would be looking for. So my recommendation is to do an incognito search whenever you're searching for your own business. And the way that you would do that on Google is you go up and you right click on any of the pages that you saved and say view incognito. And that will be, it doesn't track, it's a fresh screen that doesn't have any of your tracking. You can just Google how to look at something incognito. So search engine optimization is such a unique thing, and it involves location as well as the words that you type in. It also involves the strength of other people in the location. So say you're searching physically at a coffee shop, that's going to be a different search because you'll be compared to different queries by location than you would be compared to in your home, right? Right. So we'll get a little bit into that with Google business page optimization because that is part of today's session. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Now, sometimes if I type in home watch near me, I will get a business that will pop up that's saying Cape Elizabeth that doesn't even cover my territory, but they repeatedly show up as the top search on Google.
Yeah, they've probably done some really strong location search optimization, or perhaps there's 1,000 different reasons why a business would show up first. My recommendation is for that specific circumstance, I would do a couple things. The first is if you're really wanting to get a lot of customer acquisition out of the gate, I would recommend, and it's really hard to invest in SEO, professional SEO, out of the gate, but maybe at least a strategy session with the SEO. The other thing that right out of the gate I would recommend are making sure your Google business page is optimized for your regions. Your categories and your keywords, which I'll talk about in a little bit, are correct, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But I would also recommend in your hero section serving the areas that you serve, like Kennebec County, Maine, serving, Portland, South Portland, New Hampshire, or like Northern New Hampshire.
Okay.
And have that rate in your hero section. As probably an H2, remember we talked about tagging? So probably an H2 or an H3.
Okay, because I have my territory covered down at the very bottom of my page. It says serving Sebago Lake region and Cumberland County, and then it lists the towns that I'm doing.
That's great. There's a lot of other things you can do, like creating specific pages for every town as a landing page. There's a ton of things you can do for local SEO. We're really just talking about the basics today, but those are some suggestions that I would have for you to get found very quickly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, let's get moving, get rolling.
Okay. Thanks. I hope I answered the question well, but we'll touch on a lot of these things as we go through today. But getting really strategic about getting found in locations beyond Google Business really does require some professional support, copywriting and development. So the other thing that I often see with DIY websites is, and it affects something called user experience. And you want your users to have a great experience because Google measures if they come to your page and leave it really quickly or go through all of the different pages. So there's a few things that I see for user experience. The first is people make it too difficult to get the service that you want, right? So if a user is looking for a service, make it easy for them to find it, make it easy for them to book it. Your calls to action should be really simple, and your flow should be really simple. And I love this diagram. So if you look at this image, and I bet you, Laura, when you were in school, you learned a lot about this, but so you've got your designers that have this really beautiful walkway, right? This is design, so perfect walkway, right? And then we have what people are actually doing. This ugly brown walkway, right? Because it's a shortcut. So when you're considering your website, make it easy for people to do what you need them to do. Don't try to teach them how to do what you want them to do. Make it easy for them to do it. I deal with this a lot with, like, in the restaurant industry. They're like, well, we want to teach them to reserve a table and not call us. Well, if they're calling you, then maybe how can we make it easier for them to, like, that process, while we maybe over time can do the other things, but we really need to make it easy for people to do what they need to do. And that outsmarts pretty, wordy, funny every time. 100% of the time, a simple user experience is the most important thing for your website. The next thing is simplify, make it, like I said, make it easy. Make it easy for people to do what they need to do by also simplifying the things on your website. Another thing that I see rookie or DIY designers do is squish everything together, right? I really recommend a lot of white space so that when you think about the way that an eye falls, so when I'm designing a website for our clients, we think about the way the eye falls. We think about the way people read online, which is up and down and not across, right? And so really you want to make sure everything on your site is skimmable, okay? So having things, really wide blocks of text that go across the whole page of your website, the eye is going to get fatigued, right? And lose the line all the way through. So really take the wide blocks of text and make it narrower. Make sure everything's left side justified for blocks of text. Make it easy for people to do what they need to do without squishing everything together and making it hard for them to see and draw the eye to where you want their eye to go. And where we often want the eye to go is to a call to action. So what is a call to action? You'll hear them called buttons or calls to action on your website. And my advice for that is be really clear about what you want them to do. So if you want your customers to call for an appointment, make the call to action button call for an appointment. And when they click it, it calls you, right? If you want them to book a calendar appointment, put a little calendar there in the icon, and like schedule a free call, schedule a free Zoom, make it really, really clear. Never, 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 and I'm being very mindful, never assume, I'm not saying never by accident, that your visitors know what you want them to do. Make it really clear. So if it's submitting a form, giving you their email address, clicking a button, and by the way, click here is not a call to action, okay? A call to action is schedule a call, right? They're still clicking there, that's obvious, but you really want to give them some context. Your calls to action should stand out so they're always noticed with commanding language that tells the customer what the goal that you want them to do is, okay? You are the director here. Before we go to that, any other questions about calls to action? Because these are actually quite important. And they can be really fun. I think one of the calls to action on my website is let's boogie, because I want people to sign up for my subscriber list. And so, and our subscriber list is like a fun, lighthearted, our brand is on brand with that. But it might be schedule your legal consultation, right? Or schedule a free coffee chat, whatever is on brand for you.
Yeah, we've got Melissa raising their hand. Let's go. There it is. I keep doing that. All right, Melissa, you are on. Right.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Hi,
Yes.
Melissa. Melissa's another connection of mine. Hey, girl.
Sorry about the background noise. My neighbors are constantly having work done over here, and I'm hanging out outside today. Right before you answered it, I think, but I did the same thing. I'm kind of quirky on my website, so I do things like, yes, please save my summer. Like that's an
Yeah.
indication they want the offer that I have to offer and that I want them to click there. So I didn't know if that was too confusing.
Yeah, I think that's good. I remember when I first created my website, before I really knew about a lot of this, because if you're an entrepreneur and you start your business and you've got it perfect right away, you waited too long, right? So when I started my business, my website was really dark and very, very professional. And one of my friends who has a business said to me, Corey, like, basically you're going to ask for kazoo lessons. Like you are not the girl that should have a dark website, like brighten that up. And so adding those things, like you said, Melissa, are really important for your brand, if that's your brand. If your brand is really, really professional and serious, and you can be that. But often that conversational style will, and a little bit of cheekiness can take you far. It makes you stand out.
Can I actually ask a quick follow-up about the pages? So similar to the headers within your page, do the page names themselves, like with the navigation menu, is that important for SEO?
Yes. The reason that it's important is because your menu is on every page. So if you can name your pages in a smart way, then, I would not say our services for my, and I'm just going to use my business so that I wouldn't say our services. I would say SEO services or web design services or strategy, like digital strategy services. Do you see how that's a little different than just services?
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity there, and Google, it reads those menus, and because they're on every page of your website, it's high value content.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, and clear beats funny every time when it comes to your menu. Do I have permission to carry on, Jasper?
Oh, yeah. So,
Thank you.
that's great.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. So we are going to talk about how to capture more than 1 in 4 online searches that result in a sale. Okay. This is really important stuff for businesses that are location-based. We're going to be talking about local search optimization. So for those of you that serve across the country and you can serve anybody anywhere, this might not be the best use of your time. But for those of you that serve regionally or tend to have like a community around you that you work with more predominantly, this is really, really important stuff. And this is high value for your business. Okay. So local search optimization helps businesses with physical locations or businesses that want to be found in a geographic area rank higher in local searches. So what we're going to be talking about is how to get found locally by town name, area name, but also being found by near me searches on Google Maps. A lot of people use Google Maps, right? Or when, if you're looking for something location-wise, Google Maps comes up automatically. 3 businesses will come up anytime there could be a map. Google will pop up 3 businesses, and being in one of those 3, that's called the map pack, M-A-P pack. It's super, super valuable for location and geographic businesses. So let's talk about those high value clicks. Those high value clicks in particular are near me, nearby, around me, close to me, down the street, all of those things, right? So 90% of people that type in any of those words are looking for a local business, and 1 in 4 of them will go buy something from a local business. Okay, so capturing that 28% that I talked about just now, and then earlier today, how we're going to capture 1 in 4, this is how you do it. Okay, so the first thing is every business should have one, but every business that serves a location or a demographic region should have a Google business profile. And it's called Google My Business, Google Business Page, Google Business Profile. They've changed the name of it 1,000 times. Right now it's Google Business Profile. When I created this slide deck, it said Google My Business, so I still have that typed in here because they changed it so quickly. So this is free to create. Takes about a couple hours to do it really well. And it does require validation. Google has gotten better with validation. In the past, they would mail you a postcard and you had to type the code in that you got in the snail mail. And you would have to request that around 10 times often. But now they're looking for video validation. You can do a phone call validation. There's some other ways. You don't get, as the business owner, to decide how to be validated. The validation is chosen based upon the type of business that you are by Google. So when you're creating your Google business page, they will say, you can do a video validation. Would you like to proceed? Yes. Or they'll give you an option. Do you want to call us or do you want to send a postcard? They decide. We don't get to decide. And it depends on, again, the type of business, the category that you register your business as, and the subcategories. So going back to your Google business page, the categories of your Google business page. So say, for example, you could be a primary category of a medical spa. And then you also have an opportunity to select 10 subcategories or secondary categories. And I recommend that you grab all of those categories that you can. There's an app called GMB Spy that you can put on your Chrome browser that will let you know what categories your competitors are using. And that's something we use at WonderWeb to help review. We look at competitors locally, and then we also look like across the country in some key areas that to make sure that we're capturing all of those primary category in the best way possible, and then all of the secondary categories. Once you have a Google review page, a Google business page, getting Google reviews is incredibly important for search optimization. So Google, when people are searching by location, looks at 2, maybe 3 things. The first thing they look at is how close are you in proximity? They look at your categories, obviously. And then they look, when it comes to Google Maps, they look at reviews. Okay, so your location, making sure you're tagging your locations and the regions that you're covering, your categories for your business, but then making sure you have a good review strategy. Simply because most customers that read reviews believe them as though they were a personal recommendation. And trust is such a great factor in increasing your sales and your conversions. So the more confident a customer feels in your business, the more likely they are to buy. And I would like you to think about yourself. You're looking on Google at 2 restaurants, and one has 3 stars by 5 people, and one has 5 stars or 4.8 stars by 300 people, and they're both about the same price. Which one are you going to pick, right? You're probably going to pick the ones with the good reviews. So that's how reviews lend to search optimization. In addition, remember we talked about how Google wants to give the best answers to the query. So they're going to give that 4.8 star recommendation before they give the 3-star recommendation, because they know that that's a better search answer, right? So again, understanding your customer and getting them what they need. So we talked earlier about mobile, making sure your phone is your website is available on mobile. Why is that important for search optimization? Because most people are searching on the phone, right? So Google said, hey, you need to make sure your websites are mobile optimized for us to index them. So all they're trying to do is give customers a good experience. So truly, it doesn't matter what those 200 to 250 factors are, as long as you understand your customer and you deliver to your customer exactly what they're looking for, right? So just knowing your customer, start asking, how'd you find me? Where do you look when you're, what are you reading right now? Just learn a little bit about your customer and figure out. We're masters at this, but we don't realize we do it, and then we don't apply that logic. That's what a good search engine optimization specialist will help you through. Okay, so we talked about claiming your Google business profile. Again, that's a seminar that could be, that's a whole other seminar, but there's other things that you can do too. Trust and authority is important to Google. Again, they want to give the best recommendations. And so making sure that you're found in many places is really important to Google, not because you're going to be found on those places like Foursquare or Yelp necessarily, not that people are searching there, but Google will recognize your business as an authority in the more places that you have your name, address, and phone number correctly listed. Okay, so all of those different applications, and I would use search engine, I would use social media channels as an opportunity here as well. So say you are, like we have a Twitter address for WonderWeb. We don't use Twitter. I don't even remember my Twitter password, but I created a Twitter page, like a Twitter land for WonderWeb, and I said, you can find us here on my Twitter. That's it. Like, I didn't really make it too ninja. I didn't, I just got it done, right? Because done is better than perfect. So snagging all of those different registries like Yelp, TripAdvisor, get it found on Yellow Pages, grab your LinkedIn, all of those different things, they do add up to authority over the internet. There are some strategic things that you can do based upon your business and the type of business that you are, and like obviously do the high value ones first, but make sure you're found. And obviously creating awesome content. So when we were talking about headlines, I said the only goal of a headline is to keep people reading, right? This is where blog strategy comes in. There's some other things that you can do, like create an FAQ section on every page of your website, especially for your services or products. You can create an FAQ section on your contact page that answers the questions that customers may have. If you're in a place that you can create content like a blog, I love creating content and syndicating it. Yes, I'll talk about some of the registries that should be prioritized, certainly the ones that I mentioned already, Christina. Christina asked which registries should be prioritized, and I would say Yelp, Google, Bing, Apple Maps, and anything specific to your business, as well as all the social media channels to start with. So going back to blogging, having a strategy, if you're in a place for that, if you're not in a place for it yet, FAQs are great. Make sure you use the FAQ setup that's in your web development platform. So Wix should have an FAQ option, Squarespace, all of them should have an FAQ option. Please use that. Please don't create your own, because there's some code on the back that allows the internet to read that content, because a lot of the answers are going to be hidden. So unless it's schema, which is a type of code that SEOs do, optimized, then Google won't read the answers. Okay, so use those blocks that are pre-created for you in your platform. If you've optimized your FAQs, or if you're beyond FAQs, then you can get into a blog strategy. And a great book that I would recommend for blogging is They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. Really can talk about the way that you create blogs. And there's some webinars that I've created in the past, but that's a whole other, again, discussion, whole other presentation. I see Danielle raised her hand.
Yeah, we can have Danielle back on if Danielle has another question. Danielle, you got another question for us?
No, my hand must have stayed up from before. I'm sorry.
No problem at all.
Disappearing as soon as one comes on. Let me take that down.
Sorry about that. It just popped up on my screen. So sorry about that, Jasper.
No
We'll
problem.
Hi, Danielle.
to follow the recording of this later, right? This is so helpful.
Thanks. I'm glad it's helpful. Yeah. Jasper's got you when it comes to the recording.
Yeah, I'll be sending that out as soon as Zoom processes it, basically.
Mhm.
All
All
right.
right, moving on. We need to talk about analytics. And so we've all heard, I told you I worked in process and outcome improvement, but regardless, so this is my bag, love analytics, but essentially if it's not measured, it's not done, right? And so how do you know something's working or not working? Because your failures are as important as your successes, maybe even more so, right? So figuring out if something that you've done is working or not working is really important. And for that, I would recommend looking at your analytics once a quarter. If you haven't set up Google Analytics for GA4, it's super complex, super tricky. You may need a developer to do that for you, but there should be some analytic plugins that you could put onto your web platform that can help you. GA4 or the new Google Analytics 4 is the gold standard. We rolled it out for our clients about a year ago and had to increase our pricing around it just because it's so complex. So I would recommend, unless you're working with an SEO, to just put in a plugin and look for the basics. The basics that I recommend are looking at where people land on your website, the pages that are high value to make sure you spend time on those pages, okay? Don't worry about the pages that people aren't spending time on. Don't go in and tweak them further. Make the pages that people are spending time on beautifully designed and perfect. Spend your time there. We don't have a lot of time, so don't major in the minors. So you're looking at where people land so you can do a really good job on those pages. The next is time on site. If people are landing on your site and leaving really quickly, it means your messaging is wrong. That's it. If people are landing on your site and they're not staying 30 seconds at least, then you need to work on your written content, especially your hero image, your hero section. And then look for where people are coming from. Those are the 3 metrics that I would recommend: user journey, how long they're staying, and where people are coming from, their source. Like, are they coming from Facebook? They're not going to be. Facebook will only send you 2% of your posts to people, especially if you're a business. Like, look for the source, look for the words that people are searching for when they're searching for you, and do more of that, okay? And I can't wrap this up without touching a little bit on artificial intelligence and its impact on search optimization. So has AI changed SEO? It absolutely has. Has it made it easier? In some ways, yes, but in mostly, no. It's made creating content easier, but it has not made the strategy around the content easier, right? It hasn't, so it can still read a picture. AI can read a picture now, but when we go back to that picture of Mike, what's it going to read? You need to tell it what to read with strategy, okay? So AI can be helpful as long as you are being strategic, and it's a time saver and a starting point when it comes to your marketing. It's a place to start, not a place to end. I also like AI where I've already created the content and have the strategy all in it, and maybe there's like typos and I might have repeated myself or whatever, to dump that piece of content in. And there's 2 that are out there that are really great. ChatGPT is one, and the other is Gemini by Google. You can either have them write a blog or a piece of content or a website page for you, and then you adjust it very aggressively, but you're giving them the content strategy in the beginning. Or you've already created the strategic content. You're like, can you organize this and make it optimized for user experience and flow, etc. So there's some prompts that I use. The first prompt would be with creating the content. I would be like, I'm looking to appeal to this type of customer, this type of business goal. Here's the keywords that we're looking to optimize. The goal of the piece of content is to do blah, 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 blah. Like, I treat it like it's a person, and I give it all that information. A little hack that I love to use for AI is I put a little microphone application on my computer so I can just talk to it instead of typing it in, because it makes it easier to explain yourself. That has been a game changer for me. Or I'll take an existing piece of content and say like, hey, this is a piece of inspiration or a piece that I've written, and I would like you to do blah, 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 blah. But my instructions for that are incredibly, incredibly precise. And the instructions for how to do it are often longer than the outcome of what I receive, right? Because it really does require a lot of strategy. Laura just asked approximately how long after your page is indexed, which means submitted to Google, to see some real results in regard to measuring your analytics. So I would say 3 months. It could be faster. So I remember I had a newer employee and she was checking our clients' analytics weekly. And I'm like, oh, you gotta stop, because you want to check it, like maybe check it at a month to make sure you didn't do any damage or anything. But then I look at all our clients' analytics monthly. I take a glance at it and just to make sure everything's still going the way it should be. Like if all of a sudden things dropped off, like what happened? Did they get hacked? Like what happened? But other than that, I dig in quarterly and really do a strategy session to decide what we're going to be doing with the client. Maybe the client and you could do this yourself, is like what's coming, what worked last quarter, what's coming this quarter, what are we doing, what do we need to plan for, what are we going to execute? And we run in 90-day sprints. And that's what I would recommend as well. My rule of thumb for search engine optimization is the clients you have today is a result of the work you did 6 months ago. Thanks, Susan. All right. So Jasper is going to drop a website checklist into the chat. It's just a quick and dirty list of to-dos that you need to have on your website. Certainly take this recording, go back, review different pieces of it, because this is really a tactical tool in order, like the things that we talked about, in order to get started, right? This is the very basic beginner. I mean, each of these slides I could talk about for days, right? And the strategy and what needs to be done for each of these different types of being found, ways to be found. But to get started, getting started is where it's at. You know, if you're trying to be ninja out of the gate, then you're never going to get it done. So done is better than perfect when it comes to SEO, and don't be afraid to fail and make a misstep. If you're not trying things, it doesn't mean that you're perfect. It means that you're missing opportunity.
Yeah, I've sent that link. I'll also include it in the link I'll provide once we close out here today. I'll be sending out everything that we used, and just so you can keep track of it. I do see that we do have another question in our Q&A tab here from Bethany. Speaking of benchmarking metrics, is there a go-to source for finding that kind of info?
There is, so my advice on benchmarks is if you don't know what you should be measuring, then benchmarks are a great place to start. But there are so many considerations that you may want to look at what you're trying to achieve and set your own goals and work towards those specific goals, as opposed to looking at a benchmark from an established general industry. So I, again, like those 90-day sprints, but you can certainly Google industry benchmarks for, like, for example, email marketing has some pretty specific benchmarks you want. You know, I like to see 40+% of emails being opened, but it depends on the type of industry, right? Like if Dan and Jasper are sending an email, they're going to want a high open rate. But if you're sending but Nike is like a 20% open rate, that is amazing, right? It's very different depending on your goals. So each specific business, I recommend have like just 1 or 2 metrics that you're looking to improve. And then once you've done all of the things that you can do for that, then move on to the next one. That's where strategy is.
Yeah, we just for example, for gaining that kind of metrics, we use Constant Contact for our email send outs, which is a program / website service that allows you to view those metrics from emails you send out pretty easily.
Yeah, and so you start with like, so SCORE probably started when they first started doing email marketing, being like, okay, what's my open rate? And then they're like, okay, now that we got the open rate down and we know what's working, let's look at our click-through rate, right? Open rate doesn't, we've fixed that. We're good, like we'll just maintain. Now we're gonna work on click-through. So that's why I say like, hey, benchmarks are great, but really look at what you're trying to achieve. Because if you're working towards the wrong thing, just because it's a benchmark, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice.
Totally. Do we have any more questions from anyone? I think that we had a great bunch, very informative session here. Yeah. If there is, let us know. Otherwise, I do want Mark, how long is a good henchman for someone to be looking at? I think benchmark is what he means. How long is a good benchmark for someone to be looking at your website? I mean, I'm on the hench life as well.
I like to I usually start with if they're not on there for, this is my preference, if they're not on there for at least 30 seconds, I know that I need to do some work on the landing page. And then I just continue to improve it from there. Because once I've optimized the landing page, then I start to look at the user flow and what other pages I need to optimize and start to increase the time that we look at. But to start with 30 seconds, that would be I mean, I'm sure there's tons of data out there, but that's my advice.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps us up here. A little perfect timing, I'd say. Well, I want to thank you again, Corey. Great presentation. Very useful topic, and I'm sure that people will love to hear more about that. We've got your contact info there. I'll be providing it. My name's Jasper again. I'm from SCORE, and I want to thank everyone for attending. Once more, we'll be sending out the recording as well as materials used today. And there'll also be a short survey if you guys could fill out. That would be awesome. As a reminder, we at SCORE are a nonprofit that provides free business advice. And if you don't already have a SCORE mentor, I would highly recommend it. Visit score.org to sign up for one. And yeah, thanks one more time, Corey.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.